LIP 2022, The Power of Perspective, casting the lens on constructive solutions. As read by the Journalism Honours class of 2022 at Stellenbosch University.
Tackling Concussions in Rugby Head-On by Tim Malinzi. A concussion can derail a rugby player's livelihood if not handled seriously. Although there seem to be improvements in concussion protocols and awareness, some players and coaches think more can still be done to minimize the issue. The player's story. David Meerhuizen, a 24-year-old former rugby player for DHL Stormers and DHL Western Province, publicly announced his retirement from professional rugby on 15 March. After suffering multiple concussions throughout his career, Meerhuizen was warned by a neuropsychologist that continuing to play rugby at a professional level would have adverse long-term effects on his health. For me, my intelligence has always been something that I've valued. So these injuries were a concern to me because I didn't want to lose that, stated Meerhuizen. I went for tests and unfortunately got the bad news that if I continued playing rugby, it would be to the detriment of my health, so I made the decision to retire. The tests Meerhuizen referred to are head injury assessments, HIA. According to Meerhuizen, HIA tests are conducted after a player suffers a concussion to test whether or not they can return to playing. These assessments include memory tests, balance tests, and consultations with doctors, said Meerhuizen. Failing the memory and balance tests results in a player not being cleared to play. However, according to Meerhuizen, most people pass the memory and balance tests comfortably. It's up to the player. Meerhuizen identified an issue with the doctor's consultations aspect of HIA testing. With the doctor's consultations, that is completely up to you. If you tell the doctor you're fine and show no symptoms, then you're basically cleared to play, claimed Meerhuizen. A lot of players will rush this process because they're not really worried about it. Tom Bursey, a 22-year-old rugby player and former teammate of Meerhuizen, echoed similar sentiments. Players try and avoid being deemed concussed, stated Bursey. You're playing for positions and it's competitive. Unless it's really bad, you always want to carry on playing. Bursey was cognizant of the fact that forward players are more likely to suffer concussion compared to backline players. Forwards take a lot more contact. For example, in a game, I average about 3 tackles. Forwards average between 10 and 20. Bursey, who plays as a scrum-half, has suffered 1 concussion in his career. Meerhuizen, who played as a lock forward, recounts having 10 concussions. It's a contact sport. It's going to be aggressive, it's going to always be physical, and the forwards are generally the ones who are more involved with the contact, stated Meerhuizen. Through a coach's eyes. A concussion is a brain injury, and there are lots of side effects if coaches don't teach proper techniques and if we don't have the proper management systems with regards to that, according to Wilbur Kroc, rugby coach and head of the Division of Sports Science at Stellenbosch University, SU. There can be serious long-term effects of concussions, including memory loss and dementia, if they are not handled correctly, stated Kroc. He said that a change in general gameplay has increased the chances of players suffering a concussion. Rugby has become more contact dynamic, stated Kroc. The dynamic of the game has changed. The number of tackles and the number of breakdowns have increased, and that is where the majority of injuries and concussions will happen. Kroc pointed out that there is a philosophy of defensive strategies overshadowing offensive strategies. The latest trend is if your defense is organized and you can defend for 80 minutes, then your chance is higher of winning the game, stated Kroc. This, however, results in players being willing to take more contact while defending, according to Kroc. What can we do about it? Simon Duval, lecturer and sports scientist at SU, expressed optimism about the changing perceptions regarding concussions within the rugby community. He credited the change in perspective to an increasing number of high-profile people and former players speaking openly about their experiences with concussions. People's understandings of concussions is changing, and that's a good thing. People are starting to take it more seriously. Do I think that we have done enough in this regard? Probably not, stated Duval. All people that participate in the game can add value to ensure less injuries and have the responsibility to ensure that protocols are being adhered to. This is according to Dante Rademeyer, referee manager for the Eastern Province Rugby Referee Society with 42 years of refereeing experience. Significant rule changes with regards to contact situations such as scrumming, tackling and rucking have been implemented over the years to minimize the occurrence of head injuries and protect players, added Rademacher. You can't just run into a ruck regardless, for example. You must use your arms to clean out, said Rademacher. If you look at rugby in the 80s and 90s, it is now a totally different game. Access to education and awareness is crucial in changing the perception around concussions, according to Duval. Additionally, Duval acknowledged what he sees as improvements in concussion protocols. The protocols are getting better and better in terms of allowing for concussion substitutions or doing proper concussion checks on the sidelines, for example, said Duval. In order to minimize the recurrence of concussions, Duval believes that improvements in effective applications of protocols are essential. While the protocols are better on paper, are they being applied? I think that's where we're struggling a little bit, stated Duval. In terms of medical solutions, Mehez noted that scrum caps and mouthguards are scientifically proven to reduce the risk of concussions. Coaches play a massive role in reducing the number of concussions players get, said Grok. He specifically noted the importance of practicing safe tackling and rucking techniques. He urged coaches to adhere to protocols and do their part in protecting players.
You can read the full text of LIP 2022, The Power of Perspective, on www.multimedia.org.